Hello and welcome to Locojano podcast. My name is Srishti, host for today's session. Today we have a very special topic on artificial intelligence and intellectual property law. We know that artificial intelligence models are capable of doing anything, like creating images from text or creating a website in just a few seconds. However, it also raises a host of legal issues, especially in the context of intellectual property law in India. To discuss this issue, we have a very special guest today, Ms. Astha Goel. Astha is a Mumbai-based trademark attorney. She is the founder of Astha Goel and Associates, a distinguished Indian law firm that excels in media and entertainment, intellectual property, business, and family law. So, welcome to the podcast, Astha.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. Before we start, I just want to ask quickly, can you briefly tell us about your background and your inspiring journey?
Basically, I'm a psychologist who's turned a lawyer. Basically, I have pursued my BA and MA in psychology, and eventually I moved to law and I've pursued an LLM in intellectual property rights as well. And during my education phase, I was working with a few law firms, and I did take some experience in the media houses as well. And now I've eventually opened my own law firm.
So when we talk about AI generated content, like what does it mean? Like do AI works require human intervention or can an AI generate works independently? What do you
So
think?
when we're talking about AI is your an artificial intelligence where you have the scope of computer generated works which are going beyond just the programming side of it. There are certain machines and bots which are being made, like artificial intelligence is also existing in its form independently. We have music bots, like bots which are creating images. There are chat boxes and text bots, and there are a lot of things which have come into play at the moment. So, of course, this plays a very big role, and I would say that it works both ways. It also needs human intervention, and at the same time, it can also work independently. So, when I talk about having human intervention, I would say that these works basically need some type of data or some type of a means an information which has to be put. Once the AI will receive that information, then it can generate the work independently. But again, the question lies in whether you can work means use that work the way it has been developed by that AI, because it might differ on a case to case basis. But I would just say that it's a very good feature if you want to use it for research purposes or to make your work easier. But it may not be used as it is on how it develops or generates the content.
It's really interesting to see. Now my next question is that then in that case who usually owns the copyright in a work created by AI under the Indian law or any other jurisprudence you can talk about. For instance, whether AI can be named as a sole author of work. What do you think?
So that's actually debatable at the moment, where our existing laws in India, we do not have AI being recognized as the author. I mean, it has not been defined in the definition of an author or a person who owns an IP. But the Copyright Office has basically received means an application in the year of 2020, where AI had been considered as the sole author of the work, but they had rejected that application. After a year, there was means another application made where the natural person and the AI were both co authors of that work, and the Copyright Office allowed that work. But the basis of that application is really questionable, and they did not have any type of an means an explanation on why they had allowed it. So they had to file a withdrawal notice 1 year means later on. But now it's still pending the decision, so it might be used as a precedent to the means the future applications which might come into this field. So it's actually debatable whether you can or you cannot use AI to be the sole author of the work. But when it comes to certain other countries like Australia and China, they have recognized AI as a patentee or an inventor of the work when it comes to a patent. Still, there are a few like other countries like Spain, which have said that only a human can be an author of the work which has been created. So we don't have any clarity on those things.
Yeah, that's really an ambiguous thing and interesting to look into. Now, my next question is that can an AI generated content infringe intellectual property? In that case, who could be possibly held liable for the infringement, like under the Indian law?
So AI is, I feel, designed in a way that it's actually using information which is already available in the public domain. And since AI itself is not using that data to create something on its own or to use it on a commercial platform, it will not amount to an IP infringement. Similarly, it also needs some like other data to generate the content which might be useful to the user. But again, the data input has been taking place by the humans. So I don't feed in that information. AI will not be like able to give me the right type of the content which I may want to use for my some type of a purpose. So in that sense, if the data it's using is already there in the public domain, or if I have given out that information to the AI, so in both the cases, AI cannot be held liable for violating these things. But when it comes to who has used that AI to develop the work and things like that, so then I believe that the individual will be held responsible for the same. And that is how our laws are also designed. So I don't believe AI can be held responsible for that.
That's really interesting. And now, like coming to our Indian intellectual property law. So, do you think that our current law is well equipped to handle cases or works created by AI? Like, what do you think could be the key challenges in this part?
In the current uh, statutes which we have, we can do one of the two things. Either we can deny the works which are being made, like we can deny the protection to these works which are being made by AI, or we can like hold, means like the user of that AI or the person who has use that AI to the owner of that work. So one of these two things can be done at the current scenario. But I don't believe the current laws have any provisions which are taking care of the works when it comes to AI. Like in our Indian Copyright Act, we have section 2D3, which says that the author of the work will be granted the protection of the copyright. But on the other end, it is also clarifying that the person who has caused the work to come into like existence using the computer, that person will be the author. So this can again be debatable whether they are talking about just the use of the computer or are they actually talking about the use of artificial intelligence. So we do not have any clarity on that. Now, when you're talking about the challenges, if at all AI is granted the right of being an author to these works, in such a scenario, firstly, I believe that AI will not be having the right to license or have the right to sue or be sued, because those are some rights which come to the author of the means like the copyright as soon as they have it in their name. So with AI being and means just like an artificial intelligence means like a program or a software, it will be very difficult to exercise that right. Secondly, I believe that if AI is also author in such a scenario, since we have the copyright term of 60 years from the death of the author, so AI will actually never die because it's just a software which can be updated regularly. And if it will never die, it will means like the works will never come into the public domain. Now, thirdly, if the work will not come into the public domain, the doctrine of fair use will be compromised, because this section 52 is also like allowing you to use these works which are available in the public domain. But um, if it does not come into the public domain, there will be no use of such works. So it's all actually a cycle which might just be compromised, and most of these things might not come into the existence later on, because what happens is AI is also using the data which is available in the public domain. So if the works do not come into the public domain, it's all going to be like affected. That entire chain is going to be affected.
Like coming to some practical applications, have you like looked into like the issues during copyright applications at the moment about this AI generated work?
So, like I mentioned about that case in the year 2020, the AI was filed as AI being the author of the work. So, there are many such cases where copyright is definitely being like infringed by a lot of people to create their things. Now, what happens is the Copyright Act is also like allowing you certain means like modification and means like alterations to certain works which are still there in the public domain. Now, with the introduction of AI, it's very easy for anyone to just pick up any work from the public domain, make certain changes, and name it as their own. So, who is to be caught or who is to be held responsible in such a scenario? I mean, the whole point of the copyright protection will only questionable. It's actually a very tricky scenario, I would say, and it will 100% be very difficult to come up with a solution to this.
Yeah, that's understandable. Like it's really tricky thing. Now coming to the end of this section, like finally, what do you think could be done better in future? Like, do you think we should make some changes in the existing IP laws, or there must be some new rules to just address this whole issue?
When we talk about making changes, I would say that the definitions could be changed of all IP. So when it comes to copyright, the definition of author or your definition of a person can be changed, and just to like accommodate the concept of artificial intelligence as well, because with the growing popularity of this, I feel it is very much necessary to include it in the definitions. So when it comes to the definition of a proprietor under the Trademark Act or the patentee under the Patent Act, it is, I think, required that artificial intelligence also be defined. And another thing which I could suggest is probably, so we have the data protection bill, which is formed like in the year 2019. Now, this was designed by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So they have defined the term artificial intelligence, but a lot of things have changed since the time they have formed this bill. So that was in the year 2019. So since then till now, I'm sure there have been a lot of cases where AI has been used to create content. So I just believe that before they finally make a decision on the bill and introduce it, they could probably add some provisions where AI can be first taken care of, and then the bill can be like introduced. So maybe those are some solutions or some steps which can be taken to reduce this problem.
That was really interesting angle to see. Now, like I'm coming to the end of everything. Now, do you have anything to add, like a final takeaway about this whole topic before we conclude our session for now?
So I just believe that AI is definitely making life easy for a lot of people. It's reducing time. It's also giving you data at the click of a button. But at the same time, your data is also being used by a lot of like AI softwares out there, which you may not be aware of. So privacy is also one of the concerns in such a scenario. So I just feel that it's best if we use it wisely. We do not try to pick the content of someone else to create our own work and then ask for a, like the protection of like IP on that. I could just give that as one of the major thing which I would want to say to the audience in such a scenario, because this will definitely have some type of an impact on the future as well. So it's best to just respect everyone's creation.
Thank you so much for the wonderful session. It was indeed helpful for our audience in understanding this very complex topic. If our audience have any doubts, you can let us know in the comment section, or you can contact Astha via profile link which we will link in the description box. Also follow us for more such sessions in the future. Thank you, goodbye and take care.